let's jump into what you've been waiting for. Here we go. Please smash that like, especially for this. You're not going to want to miss this. You're going to want to stick around for this. Please smash that like. Here we go. Let's jump into it. Is this the same Hyperledger Jasmy is working with? What the heck is this? And why am I referencing something from Reddit? Again, why wouldn't I? You got to keep in mind, as a researcher, you have multiple different sources on your research utility tool belt, right? Crypto Twitter, or Crypto X, if you want to call it that. Also, Reddit. There's a few other sources and so on, right? So we're going to jump into this, and notice the key thing mentioned here. It's R3. Now, I want to show you something, okay? This is really, really good stuff. Capital markets, R3 at Hara. Who doesn't know about R3 by now? If you're brand new to our show, it's okay, but just know this. R3 is massive. Like when we talk about XDC, you know, the R3 quarter bridge, right? It's just mind-blowing when you take that deep dive into that rabbit hole. But we're talking about Jasmy here, are we not? And we're talking about Quant, are we not? So yes, R3 at Hara launched new blockchain interoperability lab with Hyperledger. June 14th, this was mentioned, okay? Go further into this. I want to show you some key things, okay? And if anything, maybe we reference some of this a little bit, but not word for word on the previous one. I want to catch you up to this. We've, of course, given you some of that, you know, Quant segment when it came to finality, when it came to HQLAX. So all of this, why is it such a big deal? Why is Max going out of his way to mention some of these things? So to catch you up, last December 2022, a trial-enabled interoperability between R3's Corda Enterprise blockchain and Enterprise Ethereum. Oh, it's Ethereum. Don't you love how I did this outline earlier? Talk about the blockchain for the layer 2 scaling solution based off of ETH for Jasmy. Yes. Oh, maybe this is where Max is going to. Yes. I don't leave all any of that stuff for any reason. So yes, an Enterprise Ethereum Hyperledger Besu. The experiment supported a repo transaction involving DLT collateral network, HQLAX, and payment solution finality, where Hara is the technology partner. Now, I want to state this. We put out that Quant video, and it didn't do too well. Why didn't it do too well? Because at the end of the day, some people don't want the educational side of things. They just want moon boots, moon boy talk, and that's it. They don't care. They just want a juicy thumbnail, and they want to say something like $100,000 or $10,000 or whatever the case be, right? So that video didn't do too well. But the point is, it's still there for your own reference because it breaks down why it's so significant in regards to Quant. Now, we are talking about Jasmy and we are talking about Quant. I know you want me to get to the point here, but I have to show you, like I do best when it comes to beginning and end of the outline. So why is this important? For one, like it says, HQLAX and payment solution finality, where Hara is the technology partner. Again, Hara is the technology partner. Banks such as Goldman Sachs, Santander, and UBS were involved. Harmonia, and look at this, a Hyperledger lab. Who uses Hyperledger? Yes, Jasmy. Some people say, well, so what, Max? You know, so does Casper. I get what you're saying. And again, I put myself right in your shoes when it comes to, you know, is this a nothing burger? I promise you it's not a nothing burger. And I've been pretty consistent on things not being a nothing burger. So this aims to enable what? Cross-chain atomic settlement for institutional financial transactions in which either both legs of a transaction succeed or fail. Remember, Jasmy was talking about scalability. Maybe when Jasmy was also talking about having, you know, breaking into the finance sector. Remember how also some of you guys, I've seen you guys in the comments, I've seen you in the freaking recorded section, the recorded videos and so on, making comments saying, wow, man, like Jasmy's, you know, get involved in cross-border payments and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, they're getting into it. It's not just finance. Excuse me. It's not just data democracy anymore. It's finance democracy. That's a big industry, is it not? So a key goal is for this to be trustless. So there isn't a dependence on an intermediary. Where could we be going at? Who always talks about, can it be trustless? Who also talks about creating a the internet of value, the internet of trust, how there can't be an intermediary, how they, for instance, or not can't be, but can we have things be blockchain agnostic? All right, look at this. Corda support interoperability with other Corda networks for years. There's a pressing need to interoperate with other tech. Right, we know this. There's a collaboration. Onera's Fin peer-to-peer routing network enables transactions across different chains without blockchain interoperability. Ooh, interesting. What's that all about? Again, we're getting into all this. However, this creates a dependency on the intermediary network. Now, look at this quote. We believe this digital economy will be built upon an interconnected ecosystem of multiple DLT platforms where apps, think about what this worded here. Didn't you just see a hint of this earlier on the previous outline? Why did Max, take a pause? Why don't you just put it all in at once? I got to give you guys a breather room. I got to recognize the comments. But look at this. Multiple DLT platforms where apps will transact seamlessly, securely across networks, not isolated, or walled gardens. Isn't this an R3? Isn't this an R3 site? Am I literally at the R3 site? No, this is Ledger Insights. But who always talks about the walled gardens of public or private networks? Gilbert Verdian. But Todd McDonald, and we showed you guys some videos before, he's the R3 co-founder and chief strategy officer. He's literally quoting Gilbert Verdian word for word. Now, I want to show you this next part. Harmonia in a Hyperledger lab. Remember I talk about things need to be harmonious? Remember I was talking about that earlier? I don't know if any of you guys take notes with what I say. That's okay. Harmonia and Hyperledger Lab. The original trial between Finality and HQ Lax was based on the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, EEA standard for cross-chain transactions. Remember what we also mentioned in regards to this big update for the Jasmy chain? Remember how they mentioned specifically standards? Remember how they also talk about cross-chain? It is what it is. This project targets multiple tech. So Hyperledger is a more logical home. Initially, the project is more about principles and standards and will reference the EEA standard as well as others. Now check out a little bit more in regards to this. And again, you may think that this part's a nothing burger, but it's not, because it's going to have a nice outline. So this right here, the documentation in regards to Harmonia, the aim to avoid two extremes of interoperability. One end of the spectrum is a trusted third party that creates a single point of failure. The other end is a complex bespoke integrations between two systems. Earlier, you saw Jasmy specifically mention a single point of failure, and they needed to have a scalability solution. In public blockchains, bridges between blockchains have been proven to be vulnerable to hacks. But look what it mentions in regards to Adhara COO Peter Munnings, who told Ledger Insight via this email, the content will be driven by who? The regulated entities, platforms like Finality, HQ, Lax, and others, as well as the banks who are the shareholders in those platforms. Now, in Japan, we understand the big thing that's going on in regards to, especially like, domestic banks and having yen-denominated stablecoins at these banks, and how we could pair this, for instance, with what Jasmy has going on, and how that's no longer speculative. We've seen that. And I'll pound it home even that much more here in a bit with some actual proof, with some actual screenshots. I'm just giving you a BS nothing burger because I wouldn't do that. We hope that in the future there will be many contributors, and some of those who may be using other non-Besu Corda tech stacks. There are numerous blockchain interoperability projects, but they have yet to be universally adopted. Remember earlier I was talking about adoption. How do we achieve some of that adoption? Hyperledger itself is home to multiple solutions, and this is what I love about the research we're giving you tonight. If you have studied Hyperledger, if you have researched Hyperledger, it doesn't just end with Fabric. And the key thing is this whole thing with Besu, right? And also what they have going on with Quant with Overledger. That update for Quant's Overledger, I believe it was for update 2.0, which was a while back. I believe that was like March of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. That was a big update in regards to have full interoperability with Hyperledger. I'm going to tie this all in for you guys to have it just flow a little bit better for you can understand the significance of what I'm presenting to you. So remember you saw, I don't know who it was, maybe it was somebody in the comments just now literally mentioned Fujitsu. And like, boom, I'm gonna give you some dabs, my friend, because you're doing more of your own research, and I love to see that. When I talk about, relax and take notes, this guy took some notes. How do we know that? He even mentioned it before this outline. Accenture and Fujitsu started Hyperledger Cactus, which became Cacti when it merged with Project Weaver. Now, I know some of this is technical jargon. Maybe you don't like it. But again, I want to point some of this key stuff out. Additionally, there is YUI Hyperledger Lab, which data chain initiated. And good old Quant Papa gave us some of that data chain. And in the previous Quant Jasmy coverage, we talked about data chain. So I'm not going to get more into it because, if anything, I don't want to repeat myself. Again, go back to our catalog of deep dive research. It's all there for a reason. We don't just put it on, take it off. No, it's always there from the beginning to the end of YouTube or whatever it is. It's there for your own reference. Now, I have stated in the past this whole thing of MUFG and how big that is. Because MUFG, look what's mentioned, core-based Progmat is using elements of YUI for interoperability with public blockchains. Excuse me, I got itchy nose today. For bank-backed stablecoins. This is massive because we understand the Jasmy connection to bank-backed stablecoins, yen-denominated stablecoins, and we have pointed out in the past what seemed like it was speculative in regards to Progmat. Now, if you've been a hardcore watcher of CTN for many, many months, we talked about the concept of Progmat and that Jasmy plug or connect, if you will. Now, God, this thing is driving me crazy. Sorry. I want to jump into why this is all important. Because if anything, here is your plug and here is your connect. And thank you so much to Mr. Quant Papa. So boom, here it is on the screen. And there's going to be a lot more to it than just this. And that basically is, I need to turn off this fan for a second. Global banks are exploring what? The virtues of minting their own stablecoins as awareness that the underlying blockchain tech has the potential to bring numerous benefits to both wholesale and retail customers. That begins to grow and regulations begin to take shape. This is evidence where? What does it say? Japan. For example, whereas Parliament has passed legislation permitting yen-linked stablecoins. Are we not following what is being presented here? Are we just talking about, I don't care, I'm all about degen, I'm just here for the good laughs? Mitsubishi UFJ Trust and Banking Corp plans to launch what? Do you not see the highlight? Progmat coin. Once the legal framework is finalized. Now that is really interesting, is it not? I'm going to get into more of that here in a bit. In March of 2022, ANZ became the first bank in Australia to mint its own stablecoin, which is called the ASDC, and execute the country's first stablecoin payment. Now, of course, we're talking about Japan, and that's big, but you got to reference the other areas of the world that already got the job done. AUD 30 million payment to a private wealth manager. While the United States, a group of 5 banks is planning to issue a stablecoin it calls USDF. Pay attention to that, especially in the future. Shout out to Crypto Winner, aka Badir, I'm sure he will, in response to concerns over non-bank issued equivalents. Interesting. Now, I'm going to stop mentioning this guy's name because I'm done with this, right? I don't like to create any more drama. All right, you guys who know about this, you already know. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. Ian Taylor is head of digital assets at where, In the back row? In the back row? Are you listening? KPMG. Max here was accused of making stuff up. KPMG plans that. Who also worked for KPMG? Hara. What was he through KPMG? He was a CPA. Well, a lot of people work for KPMG, Max. Yeah, a lot of people also didn't work for blockchain solutions, right? through interoperability and, data privacy and data management and all this stuff that we got going on, right? No, hundreds of thousands of people did not do that. Again, KPMG, all right? I didn't make that up. My sense is that based on the conversations we have had with financial institutions is now on the radar, he says. Their innovation teams are looking at the tech and they're thinking about how they can improve their own processes. Again, part of the earlier outline, improving the processes, scalability, interoperability, you name it. Is this it? Is this all you're bringing, Max? I'm not that impressed yet. Wait, as Billy Mays would say, there's more. Check this out. Let's get into this. Let's take you back to R3. So straight from the R3 site, r3.com, Corda use case directory. Were you aware of the directory? Did you even know it existed? So like it says, participate in one of the many live Corda powered solutions. As an application development platform, Corda powers hundreds of in-product solutions or production solutions that solve real-world problems. Not ready to build? Instead, join one of the many existing business networks and distributed applications built on a platform as end user. Why is Max mentioning this? Well, why wouldn't I? Everything that's mentioned here. And again, look at this. HQ lacks. That's interesting. Atomic delivery versus delivery DVD of securities. That's interesting. Can you give me more, Max? Yes. Honorable mention of Wells Fargo, cross-border digital cash solution. How about this one? Vodafone. Does anybody remember when I did a deep dive in regards to Vodafone? I don't even know who Vodafone is, Max. I live in the United States. Who's Vodafone? All right, just to catch you up. Vodafone should be treated just like Verizon should have been treated back in the mid-2000s. So remember how big Verizon was, how big of a deal it was? Treat Vodafone in that same light. Vodafone is huge when it comes to Europe. Who got the job done for Vodafone through interoperability with Quant's Overledger, through that Oracle solution that we covered a while back? Who builds on, who uses Quant's Overledger? Right, Oracle. That was a big deal. Again, check out that because it confirms some things. It's not speculative, literally confirmed. Digital asset broker. A little bit further down into this. We talked about Accenture. We talked about them in regards to our previous deep dives not that long ago. Digital Tinge Pilot, comprehensive study, retail CBDCs. Going further into this, let me show you this. Spunta. We always talked about Spunta in regards to Quant. Interbank Reconciliation Network, Fintium. That was one of our second to last deep dives for Quant. Intraday FX swaps and a repo platform. Yeah, interesting. Why is that? Why is that so interesting? The institutional grade, institutional swaps. That video did actually pretty well. All right, and just to show you guys this a little bit more, to pound this home a little bit more. Now we talk about Project Dunbar. I mean, shout out to Louis Jackson. He always talks about international settlements using multi-CBDCs. But what you also see on the right side, BIS, Project Helvetia, Phase 2, tokenized asset settlement and wholesale CBDCs. We already know that BIS is directly connected to Quant. They chose Overledger. Getting more into this, give me a second. I'm going to scroll down further. Accenture, far left, Banque de France, Quant. So many Quant connections here. Again, Fujitsu, Consensus, Soramitsu. We all confirmed that in the last Quant Jasmy video, right? Soramitsu confirmed with what, guys? Confirmed through ISO TC 307, the Gilbert Verdian Quant Network Standard. And again, that was in the previous one, okay? SBI Japan. Your plug, Genki Yoda. So I think there might be a tad bit more in regards to this. And MUFG. Why point that out? Because a token issuance platform. Now, again, for some of the naysayers who are just, they only got this far into it, they might say, this sounds cool, but I'm not there with you yet. Can you give me more? Absolutely. We're going to get into it. So we're going to reference this. And I believe this was taken off of the Quant network site. It is no longer there. And they do this every once in a while. Hence why it's so important to take screenshots. Because once we take screenshots, unless they tell me to take it down and not share it, I'm going to share it. Okay? So originally referenced on September 7th, 2023. Check this out from the Quant network. Commercial stable coin issuance, part 1, considerations, benefits. Do you not see where I'm going with this? Have you not been paying attention for many, many months when I keep pounding it home when I talk about, yen denominated stable coins or just stable coins in general? Don't you just love how I basically have tied all of this in? And again, I'm not going to end it right here, but there's a reason why I do this. Not because, some guys say, you only do it because, your platform, your most popular base is Quant and Jasmy and XLM. What are you going to do next, Max? Do an XLM Jasmy Quant video? I mean, I guess I could if I could figure out a way in which they're all connected, but that's not a thing. But Jasmy and Quant, there's a real thing here. And we've shown you guys that. That's why I do that. It's not just because, that gives me the views. Check this out. This was originally written by Andrew Collier. And one of the things I want to point out is the tags. Okay, so Deloitte. As we get further into this, it says banks around the world, including some well-known global brands, have been issuing their own digital currency known as commercial stablecoins. The benefits, of course, are significant. It's not all in plain, sailing. There are a variety of factors to consider before implementing. And I wish I could blow this up bigger, but it makes it all weird on the screen. But it says not to be confused with algorithmic stablecoins, because let's face it, some people, I don't know, we're still fans of that. I'm not. Look what happened with Terra Luna, right? But commercial stablecoins are a form of digital currency whose value is tied to the price of traditional fiat. The purpose of this is the 1-1 pegging. Also can be, there's other assets such as commodities. It is to minimize the volatility typically associated with crypto. The first known stablecoin, if you weren't aware of it, was BitUSD. That was released on BitShares blockchain the 21st of July, 2014. The market, of course, grew approximately to 153 billion. The rest is history. All right. Global banks are exploring the virtues of minting their own stablecoins. What about domestic banks? What about the ones over in Japan? Isn't that worth pointing out? Yeah, you get where I'm going with this. As awareness that underlying blockchain tech has the potential to bring numerous benefits to both wholesale and retail customers begins to grow. And what do they mention here specifically? And regulations begin to take shape where? As evidenced in Japan. For example, where its parliament has passed legislation permitting what? Yen-linked stablecoins. I've been saying this for many, many months now. And I'm not trying to sound like a hot shot because I'm not. I'm a very humble guy. I have pointed out for many, many months now that I feel as though that there is some kind of a quant connection to all of this. And I wasn't trying to just be speculative and say, oh, well, here's the what if. Forget the what if. It's beyond that now. Check this out. Because we did share this. If you've been paying attention to our channel, we did talk about Mitsubishi. And specifically this, UFJ Trust. We did it in a Jasmy video when we're talking about stable coins. Again, it's in the section, I think it shows like 2 bombs. It talks about Jasmy, and it talks about the stable coins and the local banks and so on. You want to watch that if you're into this stuff. Maybe you don't care. Maybe just like, when moon and that's it. And that's okay. Mitsubishi UFJ Trust and Banking Corp plans to launch what? What did I just talk about earlier? Progmat coin? Really? Can Max show me some of the stuff reference? I will. We'll get to that once legal framework is finalized. In March 2022, ANZ became the first bank in Australia to mint its own stablecoin. Hence, we showed you that earlier. We talked about the part KPMG, but the factors consider is this: as global bank interest in stablecoin issuance begins to build, there's several factors to consider. According to PwC, a viable stablecoin ought to have 4 key characteristics, and I'm going to share this with you real quick. Attestation. And an attestation report confirms the existence of the underlying assets which back the stablecoin. PwC advises that the reporting should be completed by a certified professional services organization. What company did Mr. Hara used to work for that was a professional certified service organization? KPMG. Say what you want. Do more of your own research and find out why that's so significant. Nature of reserve holdings. A well-designed stablecoin requires a range of high-quality liquid assets. For what? Collateralization purposes. I know this is not an XDC segment, but remember that guy from back on March 20th when ISO 222 went live? He showed you guys that video of what? Being able to send an ISO 222 message and use an XDC as collateral. Here's another example. Number 3, regulatory oversight and registrations. Both the stablecoin and the legal entity responsible for its operation need to fall under the premature of the regulatory body and ought to be established in a well-governed jurisdiction with a well-established legal system. What other place would be better than Japan, who's literally leading the world when it comes to regulatory framework as we speak? Terra Luna is not just going to all these other countries for no reason, just to, pick his nose and waste his time and eat other cultures' food. No, he's not doing that. He's doing big things. Technology. PwC advises that the overall usefulness of the stablecoin depends on how well its underlying tech integrates with conventional and non-blockchain tech. Think about this for a moment, guys. What is that right there? We talk about Jasmy, the connection to, yen-denominated stablecoins and how it's going to benefit the society, the whole, the new society 5.0. The use of the DD coin. Now, it doesn't just end there. DD coin with Jasmy. How about Jasmy with, again, the yen-denominated stablecoins? You don't think that's a big deal? But literally, it mentions the underlying tech. What is the underlying tech? A personal data locker. I mean, come on, guys. It's not rocket science. All right, how about this? Over the next few years, I would expect, like it says, to see some stablecoin issuance paid to the euro and or sterling, or at least start being tested. Shout out to Mike Cornwell earlier. He was talking about, he was like, hey, you're worried about this whole thing with XDC in regards to tokenized bonds? And I was like, yeah, it's actually called yours, tokenized, tokenized bonds on XDC. Do we not see all this stuff coming together? Shout out to all you guys that are invested into all this stuff. None of it's financial advice, but nonetheless, you like the research. You like to figure out who is connected to who. Multiple banks. Look at this part. I know it's hard to see it. And again, this is the Quant Network site. If you blow it up, it's just too big and it gets all funky. Multiple banks. Let me see how we're doing on the time. Yeah. Multiple banks have taken an interest, listen to this, in crypto and DeFi. They have. And in possible stablecoin issuance, now the EU regulation has been finalized. Wonder how that all came to be. Again, understand that Mr. Who, Taro Kono, did what? He went all the way over to the European Union and visited and met with who? Margaret Vestager. And who the heck is she? Why is that important? Because she's literally the head honcho or honcha, right? I forgot the of the European Union when it comes to this regulatory framework, right? You got to meet with other big wigs to get something done. So it's been finalized, okay? On the regulatory point, any proof of concept project with a bank of payment services provider will need to ensure that the right resources are in place to monitor bank regulatory developments and prepare accordingly. Look at this quote. This is good. Because remember how I said, remember Deloitte? Did I not say that from the R3 page? I said, remember Deloitte. Oh, some of you guys don't take notes. It's okay. We're not in class. Maybe you guys consider class. I don't know. Call it whatever you want. In a paper authored by Deloitte, kind of funny how I did that, huh? So you want to be a stablecoin issuer. You're like, yeah, you want to be a stablecoin issuer, man. Its authors suggest that the near-term banks should work through the range of possible scenarios in which stablecoins could unfold, engaging strategy, regulatory policy, product innovation, and tech teams. Now, numerous times here we've been talking about MiCA. You guys have been paying attention to MiCA. Were you aware that in Europe, stablecoins are subject to the markets and crypto assets MiCA regulation proposed and launched by the European Commission last year? Currently, MiCA prohibits the issuance of algorithmic stablecoins. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because of Terra Luna? Think about it, guys. In the UK, Look at this quote. We have found Financial Services and Markets Bill, Andrew Griffith, the UK government city minister, and said that they should be written to law next Easter, confirms Taylor. He expects more financial institutions. And again, guys, think about all the bullish news that you've been getting lately. He expects more financial institutions to start applying for stablecoin licenses once these regulatory guardrails are in place. You're already seeing the whole thing with ETFs. What about having the banks worldwide be on board for stablecoin issuance? And if anything, understanding the Quant connection to all of this. So when we say that yen-denominated stablecoins, right, and tokenized assets in Japan, who's the connector? Who's going to get it done? Quant network through what? Overledger. Again, the writing is literally on the wall. Look into it more yourself. If you think, I don't know, Max, that's a stretch. But again, I'm not done yet. Check this out a little bit more. 2 types of stablecoins are deemed appropriate. Number 1, asset reference tokens, ARTs. Funny how they mention that, which are linked to a basket of fiat currencies or commodities. I love how they word this: currencies or commodities. No hint about securities. Yeah, eat it, Gary Gensler. Number 2, e-money tokens, which are linked to single underlying fiat currency. Now, there's of course more to this, and I want to state this. Okay, it's this right here, and this again comes straight from Quant. I don't know if I'm getting in trouble on this part. JP Morgan coin, for example, is restricted to wholesale clients only. Oh, shoot. I think this might be the part I'm not even supposed to share. Too late, whatever. This is why it was pulled off. Now I know it's why. I reviewed all this. This is the part I might get in trouble for. JP Morgan's JPM coin, for example, is restricted to wholesale clients only. This allows it to process 24/7 cross-border payments and has led to increased efficiency and reduced costs. More examples in doubt. Let's follow. There's more about the JP Morgan thing. I gotta get off of that part. But anyway, shoot, I'm probably gonna get in trouble. All right, I'm gonna jump to this next part. Sorry, I gotta do it. And that is this right here. Okay. Notice on the very bottom part of the screen, hopefully you guys can see this because I want to get back to this outline. So on the bottom of the screen from Quant originally, and it probably is, I'm pretty sure it's taken off, it references a few key things here. Deloitte, number on the far bottom left, or not bottom left, but the top row. Financial institutions, look what's also mentioned. KPMG, you have MICA, Progmat Coin, talks about stable coins and so on, right? So it says, we've seen the likes of Facebook build their own applications on top of the internet's open source infrastructure that allow you to transfer value over networks. This has been incentivized people to stay on their platform, but that generally goes against the ethos of blockchain, which is all about decentralization. I suspect that it will mean that the banks use open interconnected networks as opposed to building their own private stablecoin networks. So right there, that shows you proof that, like it says, that, I mean, he says a suspect, but I mean, come on, man. I mean, are we not paying attention? It will mean that banks will use open interconnected networks as opposed to building their own private stablecoin networks. What one will help you get it done? Right, Quant Overledger. Says this is the second 2-part series about issuance of stablecoins. Again, last I checked, it's not there no more. Now, confirmation. All right, and again, this is from progmat_coin.pdf. Again, Quant Papa showed me this. I'm going to get to some of the key highlights here. I know it's a lot of it's in Japanese. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to come out of the frame and just put some emphasis on this. I'm going to take off some of the banners. So let me take off this other one too. So basically speaking, all right, you see the whole thing of APIs. You see, for instance, on the, some of the things are mentioned here. Remember I talked about third party. There's also CBDCs. I mean, you may not think this is much. I'll go to the next one. Because again, this is straight from their PDF. Hold on a second. API and DLT, all right? Utility token, some of these things that references in regards to DEX. You can talk about stable coins. I mean, again, I know it's kind of hard because it's in Japanese, but get some of the good stuff. This other part talks about some of the custodian nodes, embedded finance, DLT, Progmat coin. Okay, well, there's obviously a little bit more. What's the other part in this real quick? Gives you kind of like a visual breakdown how this all works. I mean, again, I understand it's Japanese, but bear with me. All right, here we go. So this right here, all right, the service layer and the issuers and all that good juicy stuff. You have the where it says the service fees, the service developers. So that you got the service layer, and then on the far right, the decentralized operation by DCC members, the trust bank layer. You have the banks in itself, some of the stocks, the exchanges. Then where does Progmat come into the whole thing? It goes to mention that it comes from the shareholder companies, those alliance partners. Look what's mentioned there, MUFG. I mean, come on. Boom, right there. You also have the token manager, the token wallet. Bottom right, neutral capital structure as infrastructure. Jump into a little bit more about this just a second. Hold on. Let's get back to this. All right, there we go. Some key things, of course, shared here, the industries and so on. I mean, I know it seems kind of crazy, but I mean, it mentions some key things like airlines, automobile industry, sports, even with Jasmy, you got, Seg and Tosu, all that stuff, right? It's just obviously showing you guys a little bit more in regards to that. Hold on a second. Let me go back. All right. But jumping back to this, just in case you lost where we're at, here it is, just to pound it home even that much more, okay? Evidence in Japan. Parliament has passed legislation permitting yen-linked stablecoins. Mitsubishi UFJ Trust and Banking Corp plans to launch Progmat Coin once the legal framework is finalized. Yes, finalized. Then it goes on to mention, while in the United States, a group of 5 banks is planning to issue a stablecoin it calls USDF. And again, back to the whole references of KPMG. I mean, the bottom line is it's all there for you to view and look more into it for yourself. That is one of the key things. And if anything, I think you can kind of understand it for yourself and see where the whole thing is going in that regard. So I probably got in a little bit of trouble of sharing some of the key things in regards to JP Morgan, but it is what it is. All right. So with that said, think about it. Some of these things are no longer mentioned on the Quant Network site. We tie some of these things in, talk about Progmat Coin. We talk about some of the connections with Quant, obviously, interoperability, some of these other key things. But why would they take it off of the site? There's reasons for that. Every single time Quant Network does some big things in the background, they take things off the site. I don't know if it's because of NDAs and so on. And if anything, when I do the chopped up version, I might even get in trouble for some of this. I got in trouble last time when Overledger went public. I was trying to be the first to put out the information. And I was told literally, hey, you got to take that down because we're not going to launch until, a few more days and so on. I was like, unbelievable. In closing, this is what I was going to show you. And I'll leave it up on the screen. I'm sorry. Kind of head up myself sometimes. Hyperledger, like it says, has many projects, and there is much information to review when learning these platforms. Jasmy, of course, is built on Hyperledger Fabric. This new interoperability solution called Hyperledger Harmonia is initially focusing on interoperability between Corda. That's why we showed you the whole thing about Corda earlier. Another enterprise blockchain that focuses more on fintech, and Hyperledger Besu, which is, of course, enterprise Ethereum. So the answer is yes and no. Hyperledger Cacti is an enterprise interoperability solution that does include Hyperledger Fabric. We have not heard anything from Jasmy team about working with other Hyperledger projects for interoperability yet. But the key thing is what we showed you on our own deep dive. Let me come back into the frame. Connecting this all together, all right? Doing more of that deep dive research. This whole thing here, let's see here. blockchain with Hyperledger Fabric. There's a book that you can look more into if you want to nerd it out. Remember how I talked about finality and HQLAX? Look what it says here. Original trial between finality and HQLAX was based on Ethereum, Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. We already showed you guys that for cross-chain transactions. The project targets multiple tech. They do. Again, hence why I showed you so many different examples. Hyperledger is more logical home, especially when it comes to data-driven, cryptocurrency projects or blockchains. That's why Casper's on it and so on. Initially, the project is more about principles and standards, and we'll reference the EEA standards as well as others. You saw that in the example about this new blockchain. Literally, specifically mentions some of these standards. I just want to pound this home just a tad bit more. I know I said that was the end. The key principle outlined in the Harmonia documentation, listen to this part, is the aim to avoid the two extremes of the interoperability. On one end of the spectrum is a trusted third party that creates a single point of failure. The other end is complex bespoke integrations between the two systems. You already saw that also referenced in regards to this new scalable solution that they have. In public blockchains, bridges between blockchains have been proven to be vulnerable to hacks. Again, we pointed some of this out. We quoted Peter Munnings, right? So we already showed you that. Like he says, numerous blockchain interoperability projects, but they have yet to be universally adopted. Hyperledger itself, if you're wondering about what's the whole thing with Hyperledger? Hyperledger itself is home to multiple solutions. They are, obviously, we always talk about Casper as well. It's one of the things we tag here. Accenture and Fujitsu started, again, shout out to the guy in the comments who talked about this earlier, started Hyperledger Cactus. We did talk about that, so I'm not going to keep hard put on that. Additionally, there is the YUI Hyperledger Lab, which data chain, again, I showed you guys all this stuff. MUFG's core-based prognet is using elements of YUI. We showed the whole thing with Quant for interoperability with blockchain, public blockchains for bank-backed stablecoins. But that reference to Japanese yen bank-backed denominated stablecoins is your plug, your connector, and so on. So again, guys, I don't think it's too speculative anymore, right? I think there's enough writing on the wall to basically state that this is a big, big deal. And for anything, I'm accumulating more in regards to my Jasmy, Quant, you name it. I do like this last statement this guy has. And so a few words, just say Jasmy to the moon and a bunch of banana and rockets emojis next time. Yeah, he posted that 3 months ago. But a lot of you guys just, I don't know. Maybe you guys like the research. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just want the whole thing of, Max, can you just show me when moon? I can't show you when moon, but I can draw and connect the dots for you and give you a better idea of where we're going with all this stuff.